Hello there! We're the McClatcheys. As shared in our intro video, this is going to be our story. So sort of how we met, what we did in our relationship before we got married.
Yeah.
So first of all, I just want to share a bit of my story. So I was a single guy growing up in southeast London, mate, you know what I mean? And how I just waited. I waited to be in a relationship. So I had a few flings here and there when I was in like year 8 and had like a relationship for 2 weeks. It wasn't really serious. It was like, we're gonna go to the cinema, we're not even gonna hug, we're not even gonna hold hands. So I don't think I could class that as a relationship, to be honest. And then again in year 10 where another girl wasn't really ready for a relationship. We lasted like 7 days. So I don't think that's a proper relationship, no. So from there, post-Christian life, I found those more interesting girls, especially Christian girls who could sing, especially, I don't know why, but I really wanted someone who could sing. But it just didn't feel right. So I could see that we could be good together, but it just didn't feel like they were the right person for me. So I waited, I prayed, and I was kind of one of those Christians that had the desire of, I want a wife, I want children, but you know what, Jesus is enough for me. But then also going to bed being like, actually I want someone to hug at night. So yeah, I was kind of conflicted within myself. I felt maybe called a bit to singleness, but yeah, I prayed about it, and that's a bit of my process. I'll share more later on. What about you, my darling?
So, well, a bit about my background actually. So I grew up in a childhood in a household full of trauma. So there was abuse, there was alcoholism, and there was all sorts. So it just meant that as a young lady, I was very troubled. I was anxious, I was fearful, and I, growing up, found that I was looking for validation, love, and acceptance. And unfortunately, I found that in relationships with guys. So it just meant I got caught up in situations with different relationships where maybe they were toxic, manipulative, controlling, and kind of like the very thing I was trying to avoid but naturally end up in. I'm sure there's others that relate to this, because I didn't know who I was. I wasn't secure in who I was, and I basically, yeah, kept making choices that led down unhealthy paths for me. So even leading up to like 2016, I was previously engaged. And had to break off that engagement for some very intense reasons. And as a result of some of the things that took place, I had some PTSD. So I was recovering from some intense trauma. And I was also kind of suicidal, actually. First time in my life, like, I'm Sharon, like, love life, go around, super joyful, da, da, da. But I had never ever gotten to this point, like such a low point. So my family and everybody was super duper shocked, like, who is this? Like, this is not our girl, like, don't recognize her like at all. So yeah, and then basically I just had this like desire that I wanted to kind of leave the country and go somewhere for an adventure, because I love like exploring, doing new things and going somewhere and just trying out different locations and whatnot. And so I just had this desire, and suddenly I wanted to go to, say, Europe, because I'd never been there. I'd been to other continents and countries, but not there. So London was on my heart. Long story short, I end up here as an au pair, basically, yeah, like working for a family with 4 children, and fast forward, different activities over the next year from 2017 to 2018 led me to different people, different options to end up at this outreach conference where I met Anthony. Yeah. And yeah, we both had a process before then, which we checked out the timeline. It was actually kind of crazy. Yeah, did you share yours?
No, not yet. Let me share.
Go ahead.
So for me, I just finished a week-long intensive study at uni. I was feeling really tired, and someone was just like, do you know what, don't go to that outreach thing tomorrow because you're gonna be tired, don't get burnt out, sort of thing. But I really wanted to see people know the love of Jesus, really, so I thought I'll go anyway. So, but a week before that, I was really feeling like, Lord, maybe I don't want a wife and children because actually I want to live so on edge for your gospel, for your kingdom, that actually I'll lay down my desire for a wife and children so that I could follow you, because I don't want them to get hurt, I don't want them to get harmed. So then, like a week later, I went to this evangelism conference and met Sharon, and that kind of changed my life.
Yeah, so about 2 weeks before I met Anthony, I went through a process where I was just talking to God, and I was like, okay, Lord, like, I'm so done like moping around and just kind of being really focused on me. Not that being in a healing process is bad, so like, hear me, I'm not saying that that's bad, but I just got to a point where I just wanted to do more in my life that was more the things that energized me, that I loved, and not kind of just constantly thinking about my healing, basically. So I was in that space where I want to just do, Lord, whatever you have in store for me. And I said this kind of crazy, dangerous prayer. Whatever you have in store for my life, I say yes to. Okay, so that whatever turned into a lot of unexpected stuff. So then 2 weeks later, I'm in the space where, yeah, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to share God's love, and end up at this evangelism conference, and I meet this guy.
Yay.
And we were on the same team.
Yeah.
The same team that was going out and just loving on people on the streets.
So yeah, 2018 in London, in Wembley.
In April.
We met on the streets of London, same team together, sharing the love of God with people around us. And we met a particular guy who was struggling with alcohol, and we just was really able to share God's love with him. And in that passion, in that fieriness of the day, we had a worship time at the end of the day, and Sharon saw me dancing.
Yeah, I mean, I was like praying with a bunch of girls, and we were just enjoying, just kind of supporting and encouraging, uplifting each other. And then in the corner of my eye, I see someone like kind of dancing around, like being super free. And I'm just like, whoa, like, I have never seen a guy dance so freely before God like that before. So that was interesting. And I thought, anyway, back to prayer.
So my dancing caught her eye.
Okay, I was intrigued but not attracted. Okay, let's just clarify. I was like, that's cool. Doesn't mean I was like, oh my god, he's like the coolest thing on the planet. Not yet.
What you're saying about my dance moves, hey?
No, he had cool dance moves. He did actually. He's just having fun. Okay, so not yet. I wasn't attracted yet. Obviously we're married. You guys know this now. So how did it happen? Yeah.
Yeah, so from there we sort of was messaging backwards and forwards, saying, how often do you do this? It would be great to do this together again at some point.
He said that to me, just to clarify.
That to her, yeah. So I started the conversation, backwards and forwards we sent some messages. These weren't just messages, but these were paragraphs. Not just paragraphs, but they were more essays. Let's be honest.
So we both love words, and we're both wordy people. And I was a bit shocked that my messages were getting longer and longer, and so were his. And I was quite surprised by that, because I was like, is this like a male version of me or something? And then meanwhile he was freaking out because
I was like, oh, this is a woman after my own heart. I love writing long messages. Trust me, all my friends would know. They'd be like, whoa, that was a long message. So yeah, we both enjoyed long messages, which was like, ooh.
Yeah, and it was like about Star Wars and Marvel, things we love and have in common, and youth, working with young people. And just our story about our love for God, and just things that matter to us, like your favorite color, like favorite activities,
favorite animal.
Yeah, and then as we were texting, the more he talked about, oh, I'm still in uni, da-da-da-da-da. And I'm saying that I've traveled, I've been out of uni like for quite a few years. And then I pick up, oh my goodness, there's an age gap here.
Yes.
And I start freaking out.
I was really inexperienced. I haven't had much experiences in life, but she had that on top of me, so it was just like, do you know what? It doesn't matter. Age doesn't matter. We'll get through it either way if it's meant to be.
So he said, and here I was like, no, I'm good. No, thank you. This sounds like a baby. Like, this sounds like someone that...
To be honest, I pretty much was at the time, though.
Yeah. What, you just turned 22?
Yeah.
Yeah. and I'm 6 years older than him, just to clarify for everyone else that doesn't know that. So yeah, I was just kind of like, yeah, no, I'm good, no thank you. And also, I didn't come here for a relationship. I'm not in the city to get myself caught into anything. I was in a hurting place. I was still recovering, and I wasn't going to open myself up to someone again, and I didn't want the heartbreak. I didn't want the trauma. So yeah, the messages eventually got shorter and shorter and shorter from my end.
I don't know, just
yeah.
I was just like, what did I do wrong? Did I offend her? Is she ever gonna message me ever again? I was overthinking, clearly, but still.
Yeah, but I went through a process where I just was so torn. I eventually was getting very frustrated with how hearing the things that we had in common in those texts were just freaking me out a bit.
I think you should mention the thing, my darling. The phone thing.
Fine, I'll be honest. So here's how much I freaked out. So basically, I felt like a teenage schoolgirl again. And I had my phone. Anthony would send a message, and in the privacy of my home, if that message came from Anthony, I'd see it be like, throw it away somewhere on a couch or a soft surface.
This is now my wife, guys. This is now my wife.
So my phone didn't get damaged. But then I didn't have the self-control when I was in public. I was with a family, great friends of ours, and basically one of them was sitting opposite me and was on their phone and just like looking at something, and then I'm on the other side, and I'd received a message from Anthony, and so then like I open my phone, I'm like, and then I immediately kind of like slide the phone over, like just trying to get rid of it, like and then my friend was like, you alright? You okay? Yeah? And I'm like, yeah, I'm alright. No, guys, I'm actually not good. There's somebody that's been messaging me, and his name's Anthony, blah, 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 blah. So I was in a torn place, but let's fast forward that a bit. I had a chat with God. It was in the middle of like a time when we were just worshipping in our church service, and I was just crying because I was torn, like so torn. I wanted nothing to do with him, but I couldn't help how attracted I was and how drawn I was just to his demeanor. He's so gentle and he's so kind, and even just how patient he was when I was being avoidant. I was like, okay, this is a bit weird. You'd think a guy would get the message and just back off, but he didn't. He was just very kind, and I was just asking God, like, Lord, like, if this is you, like, man, I just need you to make it really clear, because I don't want the heartbreak. I don't want the trauma. I don't want to be messed around again. And I just felt like God was saying, do you trust me? And I was like, yeah, like, of course I trust you, Lord. Like, you've been there for me no matter what, like, of course. And then I just felt like he was saying, do you trust me? Again, I was like, yeah, I trust you, but do I have to trust him? Like, do I have to open my heart up again? Do I have to let in another, like, potential for heartbreak? No, I don't really want to do that. And then I just felt like God lovingly kind of just nudge, like, almost like hug me and just say, like, do you trust that the plans and things I have for your life are good? And I was like, yeah, I do, actually, because in the lowest and the hardest and the harshest of times, you've always been there. And even if it hasn't made sense, you've just been there. And I've never been alone. So yeah, even in this, like, I trust you, but I'm just scared. I'm so freaked out about what opening up my heart might look like. But I guess it wasn't about me, it was more about just trusting God, and I just felt that sense to just be myself and to let the process be the process.
Yeah, and in those moments where she was going through these questions, going through these doubts, all I had in my head was, she might be going through something right now, but that's okay. You can't force someone to respond, you can't force someone to answer. So although the messages were decreasing and I was just like, those thoughts intruding and being like, did I do something wrong? It was just like, you know what? She could just be going through something. So the loving thing to do is just allow the space at that time. So that's what happened, really. But then we started messaging again. And then there was a worship event with some people that I know, so I invited Sharon to that. But beforehand, Sharon messaged me and was just like, before that happens, can we meet in the park? It was an outside space with loads of people around. And then we got talking, and Sharon was just like, before
what
we do anything,
this?
What is this? Like, what are we? Like, what is the
messages? I didn't want to get messed around, so I was just like, what is this? Like, what is it that is going on between us. Like, I'm really sorry to be outright, but I don't have time to waste, and I'm not going to waste my emotions and time on anything or anyone anymore. Like, I'm very serious about my future, and I'm not here for a fling. So like, just help me clarify, like, basically, like, what are your intentions? Why are you messaging me? Yeah.
And for me, I completely understood that, because it's just like, you know what, she is going through something. I don't want to mess her around either. So we just kind of decided we could be friends and see if there's anything more we can be. So there was no pressure in that. It was just like, okay, let's just see where we go.
Yeah.
And with that, we didn't want to rush into things. We just wanted to take our time. We want to process it through. So we met up a few times with other people, with friends.
It sounds like proper old, like, chaperoning type vibes. Like, that's actually what happened, because I was kind of like, nah, I'm not doing the traditional, sorry, I'm not doing like the whatever way of trying to get to know someone. Like, I'm going old school. I'm trying to discern if this guy can be my husband, so I'm gonna get my people to suss him out. Her
friends properly interviewed me, like, proper deep questions, like, how are you gonna love Sharon, and what about this, what about that, and it's just like, okay. But I think I kept it cool enough.
You were amazing. I was like, how is he still here? But that's just because Anthony's just got this integrity where he's just truthful and he's himself, and that's the thing you end up falling for, whether you're his friend, family member, or someone that becomes his wife.
I didn't have to prove myself.
No, he was just himself. Yeah. And I was quite impressed, actually. They were very impressed. So yeah, a mixture of that, and then kind of getting that blessing from our pastors, and a bit more about like the kind of stuff that our leaders spoke to us about. Like, we're going to share that in another video, to help discern what are the things you can think about before you get into a relationship that will ease that discerning process, so you don't get into it, get caught into the emotions, the high of it, and then it just becomes a situation or a person or a relationship that is not right for you. And then there's the heartbreak that can come with that. So sometimes just taking a step back and discerning is so powerful. So yeah, that's in the other video that you guys can click on. So yeah, it was.
So with that, we kind of wanted the blessing from the pastors. We wanted a blessing from the parents. A video called Sharon's mum. I think it was on her birthday party, wasn't it? Just to say happy birthday, and then
there was something on
that was the first meeting, sorry. And then later on, I asked her mum, I think I really like your daughter, to have permission to ask her out. And she seemed to really like me, which was great.
My mum loves him. When I told mum about Anthony for the first time, she just got this like sense and like a picture from God, like of like a river, like a gentle flowing like stream, actually. A stream that's just flowing gently, gradually, and that is just Anthony. He's a gentle giant. He is so kind, and he just flows with grace. He flows with love, and he's just patient in who he is. He's never in a rush. Like, I'm more the speedy one, and he's more like the let's just take it easy, guys. He's just like, oh, let's love. Yeah.
It's what makes us work together.
Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, my mom loves him.
Yeah, and what was confirmation for me as well about dating was I prayed about it, and I had a picture of two flames that came together to form a bigger, brighter flame. So although I had these desires for singleness, it was almost like, because a week before we met, I laid that desire down. So now that I laid that down, God was just like, okay, now you're ready for what I want to do. So it was just like, okay, here's someone special for you.
Yeah.
And although you're effective for God's kingdom on your own, you're going to be more effective together. Because you're better together.
Yeah.
So that's what really stood out for me, to say, yes, let's get dating.
So we were both basically, before we even decided to go further, had a process of surrendering our own desires and wants and plans, and be like, okay, God, what do you really want to do for me through this? Like, I just want to do it your way. And then when it got closer to like, okay, this decision has to be made, we had our own process. You had mine, like kind of that worship time, like, okay, I just need you to be clear now. I'm getting messed about in my emotions. And he had that picture. So for us, it's like when we feel like we're doing it with God, there's just such a security and a peace there. And we just felt like he was in it, rather than I'm combating and I'm battling something that is just not happening, but it's just me stumbling and fumbling into it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then in that, we kind of had the visa pressures once we were going out.
Yeah.
And it was just like, Sharon's visa's ended soon. Like, what's this going to look like in our relationship? Like, is it going to break us? Is it going to make us? What's going to happen?
Yeah.
And we'll share more about those pressures in future videos. But for now, it was a bit like, do I get married to her so that she could stay in the country? But that didn't feel right. I didn't have a peace about that, because relationships shouldn't be about visas, no? So I really had to just sit and wait for her. And in that, we had sort of discussions with family and friends, and I probably learned that oversharing isn't too great, because that actually just causes more confusion. I was young, dumb and foolish, let's be honest. But I've learned that lesson now. Yeah. So more in the video next to come as well, about what to do to discern a relationship. But yeah, that's kind of where we were at with a visa situation. And then there was this time, because it was coming to the end of her visa, we were in a pub, and before I promised that actually before she leaves the country, I want to see a ring on her finger. So she was just like, so you mentioned this, when are we actually going to get engaged?
It was so traumatic.
And I had to pull a bluff, so I had to pull a red-headed heroin. It was like, actually, I think that was premature of me. I think I changed my mind, which broke Sharon's heart. But yes, that's the story.
He was trying to throw me off, because in the background, he had been planning a whole proposal. And he had different people that he was working with to just really make it so special. And I think we did say that we would have a whole video just so you guys can see the proposal and also the process. Like, the build-up was just like too much. So yeah, that was hard, because I was like, my goodness, like, why would you say, oh yeah, you know, I really see us like engaged, like, before you head back to New Zealand? So I had to completely like destroy that expectation and get rid of it from my system, because it felt like built up, and I was kind of like really mad at him, but I was like, no, but it's fine, like, I love you too much to mess this up right now.
And how did you receive peace in it?
How did I receive peace? I think I just had to go back to that place of trusting God. And
you spoke to our pastors as well?
No, I did, yeah. That's right, yeah. I spoke to I spoke to Mama D. I was like, oh my goodness, like, I just hung out with Anthony and this is what happened, and he basically said that, oh, you know, I'm not too sure about whether I'm gonna like propose or whether we're gonna get engaged. And I was like, why would he say something to build up expectation if he's not gonna do it? Meanwhile, she is holding it together, trying to not break the surprise that the whole time they've been involved in this process where he's planning out this elaborate proposal. So she's like, you know, Sharon, it's okay, like, I get it, that disappointment, like, it's okay. Like, she just be so affirming and encouraging, like, I'm so sorry that you're going through that, like, I'm here for you, like, I'm just gonna pray peace over you. And meanwhile, she's like, oh my goodness, this girl doesn't know what's happening.
In the background, I was freaking out of like, is she gonna like break up with me now?
Yeah, he's like freaking out.
Did I actually hurt her heart so much? And just to clarify, Mama D is
Pastor Dorcas.
Pastor Dorcas.
Dorcas Afriyie. I call her Mama D.
Who is also Dorcas Afriyie, who did our marriage prep. So
yeah.
Thank you, Jesus, for them, really. Otherwise, we might not be where we are today.
Yeah.
But anyway, skip forward a bit. We ended up getting engaged in New Zealand on top of One Tree Hill.
My favourite mountain.
In front of her family. Which also has some significance, but we'll share that on a later video too.
Yeah.
And then skip forward. Her visa ran out in May 2019. Long distance, 10 months.
It was really hard. This was, if I could say what was the most difficult part of our relationship, it was the engagement, it was the long distance, and it was persevering the long distance, which was maybe one of the most steepest uphill climbs that I personally have ever had to go through in a relationship. But
I would also say it kind of formed our relationship
more
as well. It was a very key thing, because it helped us rely on communication more.
Yeah.
Relied on time together to be more intentional with showing love rather than just physical touch.
Yeah.
And we'll share more about that later, actually. About
like
the
surviving
difference
long
between
distance.
communication and physical touch, and how you should have more or less of the other. So we'll share that in future videos. But it really did form our relationship and made us grow and thrive and prosper. And we will share how we survived long distance in another video as well, because that was a real tough time, but a real beautiful time too. So grateful for God for that. But Sharon came back to me, and I'm so happy she did. I was missing her hugs. My physical language. My love language is physical touch.
Yeah.
So although people were hugging me, they wasn't Sharon's hugs. So I was grieving inside so much. And 10 months to be away from someone you love. It's
not easy. Anyone that's gone through long distance knows exactly what we're talking about. It is hard, my goodness. And we had like an 11-hour and a 13-hour time difference, so that just sucked. Yeah, but I'm not going to give spoilers away for that. But yeah, so I came back after another visa got approved, and Jan 2020 was my return. But then, obviously, everyone went into lockdown March 2020.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of commotion and drama, and so
they
were allowing weddings again on the 4th of July.
Yeah.
And that was
Bear in mind, we had already planned our wedding.
Yeah.
With how many people?
It was meant to be like 200 people, and the guest list had to go down to like under 30, so we ended up only having like 22.
Yeah, and we bought like our own wedding suit, a wedding dress, we had the full shebang, all the decorations.
Yeah.
They're still in our loft today, but then we had to reduce everything. So we had like a Plan B dress, Plan B suit, Plan B decorations.
Yeah. I just couldn't do it because my mum wasn't here. My brother wasn't here, so none of us wore our actual stuff. We didn't use the decorations or anything. It was so low-key, but it was still beautiful.
And we would share that process in another video as well, about the frustrations of having a lockdown wedding. Yeah,
that was hard.
There was a real process behind that.
And undoing. Yeah.
So when you have an expectation and a dream about what something looks like, but then it's crushed because of unforeseen circumstances, it could really...
it sucks.
It could really sting your heart.
Yeah, it sucks. It was hard. It was really hard for me. Yeah. But anyway.
Oh my God.
I know, we got married, so we're glad. We love being married.
And in the future, you'll be able to see our wedding on our YouTube channel, which we're excited to share. That will be awesome, wouldn't it? And then here we are, three years later, after journeying together, after doing life in community. And as part of our YouTube channel, we want to share our journey together, such as how we've managed to do housework together, how we manage the work-life balance and rest and play and people and social energies, introvert, extrovertness, and how we really are there for each other now, and how we communicate through the tough times, because conflict happens, it's inevitable now.
But how do you deal with it?
How do you deal with it? And that's the sort of stuff we learned in our marriage prep with Alex and Dorcas Afriyie, which we'll share the link to as well. So if you're interested in marriage prep, check out their link, Succeed for Marriage.
Equipped for marriage.
Equipped for marriage, that's the one.
But if you get equipped for marriage, you will succeed in marriage.
That's true. So, that's kind of a long story of our story, but still kept short because there's so much to unpack. So we hope you enjoyed our story. We hope you sort of get something from it. Hope it ministers to you in some way. We love doing life with people. So if you have any comments or reflections that you want to share, then that's what the comment box is for. And if you like what you've heard, then use the like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, then the subscribe button. We'll be sharing our next story and next video
very soon.
And that's about how to tell what's right for your relationship. So
cool. Thanks for being here, guys. Thanks for hearing our story. It's been great to share.
Thank you. I love you guys, and we hope to see you soon. We're the McClatcheys. Thank you for listening. Over and out.